The table had no name, at least none the human could recognize. Its metallic surface reflected the harsh, sterile light of the dining hall, casting the ceiling's intricate latticework into shadows that stretched like thin fingers across the room. The hall itself was enormous, built for beings far taller than a human, with ceilings that disappeared into misted glass and walls covered in iridescent panels that pulsed faintly with what the administrators called atmospheric calibration. To a human, it was unsettling. The scale, the lack of edges, the way distances bent perception, and yet he walked through it as if he belonged, as if the vastness was simply another variable to navigate. He carried his tray with care. It was nothing remarkable. Nutrient paste molded into neat rectangular blocks, a small cube of dense protein, and a crystalline glass of water. Everything was designed for efficiency, for alien physiology, for beings who required precise caloric intake measured to micrograms. Humans had been classified as low risk, fragile, irrelevant, largely inconsequential. No one had considered what a human from a death world might endure. No one had considered that he might operate within the rules differently, not ignorantly, but intuitively. The human stopped at the edge of the hall, scanning the tables with quiet calculation. He had learned quickly that proximity implied hierarchy, that a table was never just a table but a locus of authority, a node in the intricate web of social coding the institution enforced. And yet he misread it, subtly, unavoidably. One table, centrally positioned beneath the largest ceiling panel, hummed with a presence that drew immediate attention. He approached it without hesitation. The daughter of the emperor occupied that table. She did not sit, not in the conventional sense. Her body was encased in a translucent exosuit, a fusion of technology and flesh, designed to maintain her life while mitigating the paralysis that had confined her since birth. Her eyes, vast and liquid, moved subtly, tracking minute shifts in electromagnetic fields, temperature gradients, and air currents, the only outward indicator of cognition in an otherwise immobile form. A low hum emitted from her suit, a constant vibration that resonated across the table surface. No one approached her unbidden. To do so was to invite immediate reprimand, or worse. The human placed his tray opposite her, and the sound of metal on metal echoed through the hall. Instantly, all motion froze. Officers and researchers nearest the table froze in place, tension coiling in their shoulders, eyes narrowing, mandibles tightening, micro-expressions that humans were said to barely register, but that he noticed in the blink of a fraction of a second. The room recalibrated around the anomaly, a human, silent, sitting at a table reserved for one who represented ultimate authority. An attendant approached, stepping lightly on the metallic floor. Her voice, modulated to convey admonishment without anger, vibrated through the hall. "Your placement is irregular." The human said nothing. He did not raise an eyebrow, did not shift uneasily. He adjusted his tray carrier, aligning the nutrient blocks and protein cubes with the exosuit's senses. Not a gesture of reverence, not an attempt to assert dominance, only a careful placement designed to be non-threatening while functional. The attendant's jaw tightened. She had expected protest, apology, panic, but received none. Her algorithms for response faltered. He began his meal slowly. Every bite was measured, almost ritualistic, as though he understood not only his needs but the unspoken rhythm of the environment. The daughter's exosuit responded with micro-vibrations, subtle adjustments that mirrored his movements. Observers noticed this in increments too small to quantify in real time. His hand moving slightly to the left, her senses adjusting by fractions of a millimeter. He tilted a cube toward the nearest receptor. The suit's hum modulated in resonance. Around them, whispers rippled. Protocols dictated behavior in structured hierarchies. Humans, low risk, incapable of complex manipulation, they were wrong. This human understood systems they had only superficially modeled. Without words, he demonstrated comprehension, navigating a web of variables they had assumed impossible for his species. Time stretched. Minutes felt like hours. The daughter's exosuit initiated a subtle feedback loop, a sequence of pulses designed to map and analyze any new variable in proximity. The human responded imperceptibly, adjusting the placement of his tray's components in patterns that mirrored the pulse sequences. Synchrony emerged. It was not dialogue, not communication as the institution understood it. It was an alignment of understanding, A silent negotiation between alien technology and human instinct. The room's observers could only watch, their minds struggling to recalibrate. Authority figures, trained to read threats, to recognize dominance, now confronted an anomaly they could not define. The human exerted no force, issued no command, displayed no overt intelligence, but in the quiet of observation, he had rewritten the calculus of potential. He ate slowly, deliberately, eyes occasionally flicking toward the daughter. The exosuit sensors followed, recording, analyzing, yet she remained outwardly still. Her hum shifted, subtle waves of recognition that no observer could translate into language. The human did not speak. He did not make unnecessary gestures. Each movement reinforced restraint, patience, and methodical competence. The institution's understanding of risk began to crumble from within. Hours, perhaps, passed. Eventually, he finished. He rose, carrying his tray to the return rack. He did not bow, did not nod. He did not seek acknowledgement or reward. He simply respected the invisible boundary of space and protocol, leaving the daughter's exosuit in silent equilibrium. Around him, tension gradually bled from the hole, replaced by a quiet recalibration of assumptions. The Emperor watched from his elevated station, expression unreadable. He did not speak. He did not gesture. But advisors noted the subtle tremor in his hand, the micro-flinch of an eyebrow, the pause in his stylus as it hovered over a datapad. Every calculation of human limitation, every policy predicated on presumed incapacity, now required revision. In the days that followed, the human's actions became a reference point. Not celebrated, not dramatized, but encoded in procedural records as a model of unexpected influence. Humanity had asserted itself, not through force or spectacle, but through quiet competence, intuitive alignment, and patient observation. The daughter's exosuit remained unchanged in outward appearance, yet something imperceptible had shifted, an acknowledgement of agency, a recognition of capability beyond protocol, beyond expectation. And in that silence, in that subtle recalibration of an empire's assumptions, humans were no longer mere variables. They were possibilities. They were unknowns with the potential to shape systems, to redefine outcomes, without ever asserting overt dominance. Authority recalibrated, procedures rewrote themselves silently, and the human moved on, leaving a quiet revolution in his wake, a lesson unspoken yet indelibly imprinted on the foundations of interstellar hierarchy. Even as doors sealed behind him and the hall returned to its measured rhythm, the pulse of potential lingered. The silent daughter, the Emperor's unreadable gaze, the advisor's whispered calculations, all bore the mark of the human who had quietly defied expectation. And in the Empire's archives, the human's actions were recorded not as spectacle, not as rebellion, but as a subtle, unassailable truth, that the smallest, quietest variable could upend the most rigid system, not with strength, but with patience, perception, and unflinching presence. The halls continued their hum, the panels pulsed their calibrated light, and the Empire adjusted imperceptibly, acknowledging a new reality without saying a word. Humanity, silent, disciplined, and unseen in its own method, had entered the system, not as conquerors, not as disruptors, but as a quiet, unyielding certainty that no rule could fully contain.